My boss's son fired me the moment he took over the company. He called me lazy and useless to my face. I just smiled and left without a word. He had no idea that his first decision as CEO would destroy everything. His father spent his life building, all because of a single line in my contract. My name is Arthur. I'm 68 years old. And for 30 of those years, I was the heart and soul of Titan Forge Industries. Old man Joseph, the founder, wasn't just my boss. He was my best friend. We built that steel fabrication company from a dusty warehouse into a national powerhouse. I was there for every win, every crisis, every late night. I knew more about Titan Forge than anyone alive, except for Joseph himself. When Joseph got sick, he made me a promise. He said, "Arthur, look after the place. Make sure my boy Leo doesn't run it into the ground." I gave him my word. I just never imagined I'd have to keep it from the outside. Joseph's son, Leo, was everything his father wasn't. Where Joseph was hardworking and humble, Leo was arrogant and lazy. He spent his time on fancy vacations and buying expensive cars, showing up at the office only when he needed more money from his dad. He hated me because I represented the old way of doing things. The real work he knew nothing about. The day Joseph passed was the saddest of my life. A week after the funeral, Leo strutted into the building like he owned the place, which I guess he now did. He called an all-hands meeting in the main workshop. He stood on a crate, wearing a suit that cost more than my car, and announced he was the new CEO. He talked about streamlining and modernizing. Stood in the back, my heart heavy, watching the nervous faces of the men and women I'd worked with for decades. They all looked at me for reassurance. I gave them a small, steady nod. Everything would be okay. I tried to tell them without words. I had made a promise. The changes started small, but they were mean-spirited. Leo cut the annual holiday bonus, calling it an unnecessary expense. He stopped ordering the good coffee for the break room. He made everyone fill out detailed timesheets, tracking every single minute of their day. The mood in the factory shifted from a family to a prison camp. People were scared. My desk was in a small office overlooking the production floor. I saw the worry in everyone's eyes. I tried to talk to Leo. I went to his new, lavishly remodeled office and told him, "Son, your father built this company on loyalty. These people are the reason we're successful. You can't treat them like numbers on a spreadsheet." He leaned back in his giant leather chair and smirked. "That's the old way of thinking, Arthur. This is a business, not a charity." My father was too soft. "It's time for real leadership." I left his office feeling a cold knot in my stomach. The real battle was coming. I could feel it. The hammer fell on a Friday afternoon. Leo's assistant, a nervous young man, came to my desk. "Mr. Leo would like to see you in his office," he said, not meeting my eyes. I knew what this was. I closed the ledger I was working on, took off my reading glasses, and placed them neatly in my shirt pocket. I walked slowly through the familiar halls, past the pictures of company milestones, many of which featured me standing next to a beaming Joseph. Leo was on the phone, laughing about some party when I walked in. He didn't hang up. He just waved me toward the chair. I remained standing. After a minute, he finally ended his call and looked at me. "Arthur," he began, trying to sound serious, "we're making some changes. The company needs to move in a new direction." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "We need young, energetic people. We don't need lazy people like you, just coasting to retirement." The word lazy hung in the air. After 30 years of blood, sweat, and loyalty, he was calling me lazy. I felt a hot flash of anger, but then I remembered the promise and the contract. I kept my face completely calm. He slid a single sheet of paper across the desk. It was a termination letter. No severance, no thank you, nothing. Just a cold, formal dismissal. "Clean out your desk. Security will see you out," he said, already turning back to his computer screen. He expected me to argue. He expected tears or begging or anger. That's what would have made him feel powerful. But I gave him nothing. I picked up the paper, folded it neatly, and put it in my pocket. Then I did something that clearly confused him. I smiled. It wasn't a big, happy smile. It was a small, polite, knowing smile. "Good luck, Leo," I said, my voice perfectly even. "You're going to need it." I turned and walked out of his office, leaving him staring after me, looking slightly off balance. I went to my desk. I didn't have much to clean out. A framed photo of me and Joseph, my favorite pen. I didn't look at anyone as I walked out for the last time. I could feel the shocked stares of my coworkers on my back. They couldn't believe I was just leaving so quietly. The next morning, I slept in. For the first time in 30 years, I didn't set an alarm. I made myself a big breakfast and read the newspaper. I was calm. I knew what was coming. Over at Titan Forge, chaos was beginning. My phone started ringing at about 9:15 a.m. It was Sarah, the head of accounting. I let it go to voicemail. Then it was Ben, the production foreman. Then Mark from logistics. I ignored them all. I knew they were panicking. I was the only one who knew the passwords to the encrypted server where all the client contracts and blueprints were stored. I was the only one who understood the complex alloy formulas for our specialty steel. I was the only one who had the personal phone number for General Briggs, our single biggest military client. Leo had fired the brain of the entire operation, and he was about to find out what that meant. Meanwhile, at the office, Leo was having a very different morning. His phone was ringing off the hook. "What do you mean you can't access the quarterly reports?" He yelled at Sarah. "The password doesn't work?" "Then reset it." But she couldn't. The system had a security protocol that Joseph and I had set up. A high-level password reset required 2 senior executives to approve. That was Joseph and me. Joseph was gone, and I was gone. They were locked out of their own financial data. Then Ben burst into his office. "Leo, we can't start the Miller fabrication job. The custom alloy specs are gone from the server. Arthur always kept a physical backup in his head. We don't have the recipe." Leo's face was starting to lose its arrogant color. "Well, can't you figure it out?" He snapped. Ben, a 40-year veteran metalworker, just looked at him with pity. "Son, it's not that simple. Without the exact mix, the steel will be too brittle. It'll fail inspection. That's a $500,000 contract." The final blow came just before lunch. Mark from logistics ran in, his face pale. "Leo, we have a huge problem. The trucking line just canceled all our shipments. They said our credit is on hold." "What? Why?" Leo shouted, standing up from his desk. "They said our account was always personally guaranteed by Arthur. They trusted him. They don't know who you are." Leo sank back into his chair. He was finally starting to understand the scope of his mistake. He had thought I was a lazy old man pushing paper. He didn't realize I was the glue holding his entire world together. The phone on his desk rang, the red light blinking. It was his direct line. He picked it up, his hand shaking slightly. It was his father's old lawyer, Mr. Henderson. His voice was cold and sharp. "Leo, get down to my office now and bring your father's copy of the corporate bylaws and Arthur's employment contract. We have a catastrophic problem." Leo drove to the lawyer's office in a daze. The factory was at a standstill. Phones were ringing with angry clients. His entire inheritance was crumbling on his first real day in charge. Mr. Henderson's office was dark and smelled of old books, just like the man himself. He didn't offer Leo a seat. "You fired Arthur?" Mr. Henderson said, his voice quiet but deadly. Leo tried to bluster. "Yes, he was dead weight. It was my first executive decision." Mr. Henderson closed his eyes as if in pain. "You foolish, foolish boy. Did you ever bother to read the contracts your father and I spent years crafting? Did you read Arthur's contract?" Leo shrugged. "I skimmed it. Standard stuff." Mr. Henderson picked up a thick bound document from his desk. "No, Leo, it was not standard stuff. Your father loved Arthur like a brother. He trusted him with everything. And he knew you were impulsive." He opened the contract to a specific page, marked with a red tab. He pointed to a single paragraph, Clause 12C. "Read it," he commanded. "Read it out loud." Leo's eyes scanned the page. His face, already pale, went completely white. His hands began to tremble so badly the paper rattled. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. "Read it!" Mr. Henderson barked. Leo swallowed hard and began to read in a shaky whisper. Clause 12C. In the event of the untimely death or permanent incapacitation of founder Joseph Brennan, full and total control of Titan Forge Industries, including all shares, assets, and voting rights, shall transfer to Chief Operations Officer Arthur Mill, upon the termination of his employment by any successor, including familial successor, for any reason other than proven criminal misconduct. He looked up, his eyes wide with horror. Mr. Henderson finished for him, his voice grim. "Because the contract was a successor-triggered ownership transfer. Your father knew you might try something like this. He built a failsafe to protect his life's work. The moment you fired Arthur for being lazy, You didn't just let him go. You signed the entire company over to him. Titan Forge doesn't belong to you anymore. Leo, it belongs to Arthur. The drive back to the factory was a blur for Leo. He felt like he was in a nightmare. He had lost everything in the span of an hour. He walked back into the building, which now felt alien and hostile. He went straight to his office, slammed the door, and called his mother. "Mom, you're not going to believe what Arthur has done. He's stolen the company from me," he cried into the phone. There was a long silence on the other end. Then his mother's voice, steady and disappointed, came through. "Leo, I was in the room when your father and Mr. Henderson wrote that clause. Your father told you, again and again, to respect Arthur, to learn from him. He put that clause in to force you to be a good man, a good leader. He knew the only way you would ever fire Arthur was out of arrogance and stupidity. Arthur didn't steal anything. You handed it to him. You have no one to blame but yourself." She hung up on him. Leo was utterly alone. While Leo was falling apart, I was enjoying a peaceful lunch at my favorite diner. Mr. Henderson had called me. "It's done, Arthur," he'd said. "The boy knows." I thanked him and finished my coffee. I knew what I had to do. I drove to the Titan Forge headquarters, but this time it felt different. This time I wasn't an employee. I parked in the spot reserved for the CEO. I walked through the front doors, and the receptionist, Mary, looked up in surprise. Then she gave me a warm, knowing smile. "Welcome back, Mr. Mill," she said. I went straight to the production floor. The workers saw me, and a wave of relief went through the room. Ben walked over, a huge grin on his face. "So is it true, Art? Are you the boss now?" I nodded. "It's true, Ben. Let's get this place running again. First, someone go get the good coffee back." I walked into the CEO's office. Leo was sitting behind the desk, his head in his hands. He looked up when I entered. His eyes were red. He looked like a scared little boy. "You," he whispered. "You set me up." I shook my head slowly. "No, Leo, I made a promise to your father. I promised I would look after his company. You set yourself up. You were so eager to be the big boss, to show everyone you were in charge, that you didn't bother to learn what actually made this place work. You didn't bother to learn about the people. You didn't bother to read the most important document in your life." I walked over to the window and looked out at the factory floor. "Your father was a great man because he built things. You tried to be a big man by tearing things down. There's a difference." Leo stood up, his fists clenched. "This is my company. You can't do this. I'll fight you in court." I turned to face him. "You can try, Leo. But Mr. Henderson wrote that contract airtight. Your father saw this coming a mile away. He knew your character. If you sue, you'll waste a fortune in legal fees you no longer have. And you'll lose. The only thing you'll get is a public humiliation." I walked around the desk and looked him straight in the eye. "Here's what's going to happen. You are going to clean out your desk. You will return the company car. You will hand over all company credit cards. Then you will leave this building and not come back. If you do this quietly, I will give you a one-time severance payment of $50,000. It's more than you gave me. It's enough to get a start somewhere else, if you're smart about it. That's the deal." Leo was defeated. The fight went out of him all at once. He knew I was right. He knew he had been outmaneuvered by his own father from beyond the grave. He nodded slowly, unable to speak. He started putting his personal items, a gold pen, a silver picture frame, into a cardboard box. I watched him, feeling a pang of sadness for Joseph. This wasn't the son he had hoped for. When Leo was done, he looked at me one last time. "He never believed in me, did he?" he asked, his voice hollow. I thought about it for a moment. "He believed in you enough to hope you would prove him wrong," I said. "That clause was his last desperate attempt to teach you a lesson. You just failed it." With that, Leo Brennan walked out of his father's company for the last time. My first official act as the new owner was to call a meeting with all the department heads. The relief in the room was palpable. I stood before them and laid out my plan. "First," I said, "the holiday bonus is reinstated, with an extra $500 for the trouble this week." People applauded. "Second, all the petty rules about timesheets and breaks are gone. I trust you to do your jobs." More applause. "Third, we are calling all our clients and suppliers personally to apologize for the disruption and reassure them that Titan Forge is back in the hands of people who know what they're doing." For the next few hours, the factory buzzed with positive energy. I gave Ben the alloy formula from memory. I logged into the server with my master password. I called General Briggs and smoothed things over. The machine was working again. Over the next few weeks, I settled into my new role. It wasn't that different from my old one, except now I had the final say. I promoted from within, putting Sarah in charge of all finances and Ben as head of all operations. We were a team, a real family, just like Joseph had wanted. The business didn't just recover, it started to grow. Without Leo's extravagant spending, our profits went up. I used that money to give everyone raises and to upgrade some of our older equipment. The morale was higher than it had been in years. People felt valued and respected. They knew the person in charge actually cared about the work and the workers. About a month later, I heard through the grapevine what had happened to Leo. He had blown through the $50,000 in a matter of weeks on parties, and a new sports car. He had no marketable skills and a reputation for being arrogant and unreliable. He couldn't get a good job. Last I heard, he was working a low-level sales job at a cell phone kiosk in a shopping mall, living in a small apartment. He had lost his inheritance, his status, and his father's respect, all because of one reckless decision. I didn't feel happy about it. I just felt that a wrong had been righted. Joseph's legacy was safe. One afternoon, I was going through the old files in Joseph's office, my office now. I found a sealed envelope in the back of the safe with my name on it, in Joseph's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a short letter. "My dear friend Arthur," it began. "If you are reading this, it means my worst fear has come true. And Leo has forced my hand. I'm so sorry it had to come to this. I love my son, but I know his flaws. This company was my life, but it was also our life. I built it with my hands, but you built it with your heart. It belongs to you as much as it belongs to me. Please take care of it, and if you can, please take care of Leo. Don't let him starve. Your loyal friend, Joseph." I folded the letter and cried for the first time since he died. He had known all along. Respecting Joseph's final wish was complicated. I couldn't just give Leo his job back. That would undermine everything and be unfair to the other employees. But I could create a path for him, if he was willing to walk it. I had Mr. Henderson set up a trust fund for him. It wouldn't give him a life of luxury, but it would provide a basic living allowance on one condition. He had to hold down a steady job for a full year and complete a course in business management. It was a test of his character. He had to prove he could be responsible. He had to show he could learn. Mr. Henderson presented the offer to him. Leo, humbled by his fall, accepted. A year passed. The company was thriving. I heard from Mr. Henderson that Leo had kept his job at the cell phone kiosk and had even been promoted to assistant manager. He had completed his business course with decent grades. He was finally growing up. One day he called me and asked if he could meet for coffee. I agreed. We met at a neutral cafe. He looked different. Older, more tired, but also more grounded. He was wearing a simple polo shirt instead of an expensive suit. "Arthur," he said, stirring his coffee. I want to apologize for everything. I was a jerk. I was arrogant. I thought I knew everything, and I knew nothing. I nodded, accepting his apology. "Your father would be proud of you for saying that," I told him. Leo took a deep breath. "I understand why Dad did what he did. It was a brutal lesson, but I needed it. I was on a path to destroying everything he loved." He looked at me, and for the first time, there was no anger or jealousy in his eyes, just respect. "I don't want the company back, Arthur. It's yours. You earned it, but I was wondering if there might be a place for me there, not as a boss. I'll start at the bottom. In the warehouse, maybe. I want to learn the right way." I studied his face. He seemed sincere. This was the son Joseph had always wanted, the one who was finally ready to listen and learn. Thought about it for a long moment. It was a risk. The workers might resent him. He might backslide into his old habits. But Joseph had asked me to take care of him, and maybe this was the best way. "Okay," I said. "You can start on the loading dock. It's hard work. The hours are long. You'll answer to Ben. You'll get the same pay as everyone else there. No special treatment. You have to prove yourself to every single person in that building. Do you understand?" A look of genuine gratitude washed over his face. "I understand. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you for the chance." We shook hands across the table. It felt like a new beginning. Leo started the following Monday. True to his word, he showed up on time, dressed in work boots and jeans. He didn't complain. He worked hard, moving heavy steel sheets and loading trucks. The other workers were wary of him at first, but they slowly warmed up when they saw he wasn't the spoiled brat he used to be. He kept his head down and did the work. Ben reported to me that he was a good worker, eager to learn. After 6 months, I moved him to the production line to learn fabrication from the ground up. He was finally learning what his father's business was really about. Another year went by. Leo had worked his way up to a junior project manager role. He was respected because he had earned it. He understood the business now, not from a fancy office, but from the factory floor. One day, I called him into my office. "Leo," I said, "I'm not getting any younger. I need a successor, someone who knows this company inside and out, who the workers trust, and who has the heart for it." I paused, letting the words sink in. "I'm creating the position of Vice President of Operations. The job is yours if you want it." Leo was speechless. This was a real position, earned through hard work, not given by birthright. I don't know what to say," he stammered. "Just say yes," I said with a smile. "Today, Titan Forge is stronger than ever. Leo is the VP, and he's a better leader than I could have ever hoped. He's humble, he listens, and he cares. I'm still the CEO, but I'm slowly stepping back, enjoying my semi-retirement, knowing the company is in good hands. Joseph's legacy is secure. His son finally became the man he wanted him to be. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about proving them wrong, in such a spectacular way that they have no choice but to change. Leo fired me to show he had power, but real power isn't about pushing people down. It's about lifting them up. I lost my job